Oh, now we're on to the staff reports then, and Ken Goetch is going to give you the third quarter fiscal accountability report, so you can see how we're doing.
Thank you. Tonight I was just going to briefly go over Board Policy 118, which is why I do this report every month and every quarter. And then we have a quick update on the Higher Learning Commission as it relates to our annual filing with the financial filing. And then finally, the update as the policy requires. For the new board members in the board policy book, Board Policy 118, the board is committed to ensuring fiscal stewardship and the efficient and effective operations of the college. And so because of that, it requires administrative affairs every month to come to the board to prevent financial information, as well on a quarterly basis prepare more of a formal report. And so that's what tonight is doing. This is the third quarter report. In terms of the bonus material for tonight, this time of the year, the Finance Department files financial information with HLC, and this provides a financial diagnostic of the college. And as you can see by this graphic up there, the HLC requires you to have a 1.1 score, and if you're below that score, you go through a rigorous financial review. But because we've been scoring well above that over the last 3 years, we've not been required to do that, which means that our score is what they consider to be above the zone, which is good news. And what's nice about the diagnostic too, it covers 4 particular areas of our finances, provides a specific score, and I'll be working with research to see if we can kind of benchmark our score off our peer groups and maybe bring that back at a financial planning meeting for the board. But I thought this was very good news to share. In terms of the third quarter report itself, though, in terms of the revenues, our year-to-date revenues are trending ahead of prior year levels. Last year at this time, we had received about 56.8% of our revenue. And this year we received up 62.1%, and a big part of that is the state aid we received in the first half of this year that we hadn't received in the prior year. Though this year's revenues are slightly below our expectations because we have not received the second half state payment, but we're still doing pretty well. And then in terms of spending, our year-to-date expenses are slightly behind the prior year levels. But the good news for this year is our spending is about $12 million below what we were expecting at this point. So while revenues are off slightly at this point, we're still doing well on the spending side, and we're optimistic we'll close the year in pretty good shape. We also provide a little more detail on these numbers. You can see from this one graphic, you can see the comparison of revenues to expected to actual, and then the expenses expected to actual that I mentioned on the prior slide.
So Ken, according to that slide, it says that our revenues at this point are about 65.4 and our expenses are at 76.9.
Correct. Correct.
So our expenses are far exceeding our revenues at this point.
Correct, but it's just that we get much of our property tax revenues in the last month or 2 of the year, so that portion will catch up.
But that also reflects the $12 million underspent
Correct.
today. And is
And you
there
can
like
see
a broad-
and you can see the 12 million, the 64 versus the 76.
Oh, sure.
We were expecting to spend 76.9% or dollars, and we've only spent 64.4.
Well, no, we actually, isn't that the actual?
The actual 64 expected was 77.
So we're actually a hair overexpended compared to our revenues actual.
Correct.
Gotcha.
And then the details behind these numbers here's the revenue slide where we're looking at expected revenues to revenues received. And you can see the first line, tuition was slightly better than we expected. As we noted in earlier meetings, our enrollment was slightly better than we expected. You can now see the declining number, the 1.3 million, where we're not receiving that second half of the state grant this year. Even there's still a chance that we might at the end of this session. You can see property tax and so on are just slightly off of what we had thought. And then I also, for this month, provided some comparison to the prior year. If you look at where we're at this time last year versus this year, we're up about $5 million from a revenue perspective.
Ken, did you say when do you anticipate our revenues to at least equal our expenses?
Connie, I'm assuming what...
Yes, the property tax, which is about $33 million, starts coming in May. So we're expecting another $33 million in May.
So the May report should be closer, than finally the June report should be where we expect to see it.
The point is, if we keep up this rate and the revenues come in as expended, we'll be fine for this budget year, and we may have some, maybe able to build something in the next year.
Right, so I think it's 91% of the tuition and fees are already included in there. But as I said, half half of the property tax is not in there.
65 million would be the property.
So does the summer school tuition fees get included in this year's numbers for this purpose?
So
It's a small amount though.
does the treasurer actually send out money for property taxes as soon as it comes in?
They're pretty quick, yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, it's not
Yeah, I
true
think
to
you get
like,
like 5 or 6 disbursements, and as I said, I mean, it's gonna be around 33 million.
It'll all be in this fiscal year?
Good amount of it, yeah.
could be, yeah.
Should be able to count.
Yeah.
I think it's due at June 2nd this year.
Right.
Yeah, so I've been looking at the trends for the past couple of years, and those 6 payments that come in May, June, that's,
Yeah, we can count 30 and 60 days after the fiscal year back into this year as well, too, so
Yeah.
we get to count it all.
Okay, good.
As we showed you from earlier presentations too, we know the EAV in the county is doing really well, the new construction's up, so certainly the levy's as strong as it's been in a while.
And there's a lot of new construction going on in the county right now, no matter where you drive.
And then here's some of the detail on the spending side. We're looking at spending expected to actual, and here's where you can see the $12 million variance. You can see salaries are positive, traveling all the way down the line, so we're on the right track there. But then I also like to look at the last year's spending as well to just get a feel for how we're doing in comparison to the prior year. And this slide shows that we have a slight positive variance relative to last year, and all of the non-salary lines, you can see that like in the area of health benefits and other benefits, we're spending below the prior year at this point in time. So I think that is a good sign for us. And then finally, because this is a new board members here today, I did include one slide that just showed all of our funds. We have 11 funds as a college. The 2 top funds, the education and the O&M funds, are the main general operating funds of the district. Those are the funds we typically report on every month. But these are all the other funds that the college has. For example, the third line, the O&M restricted, that's where all of our capital spending takes place. You can see under restricted purposes, that's where our grant spending, where we receive our grant funds and we spend from our grants. You can see our audit fund and so on down the line. So those are just the overall 11 funds that the college has. So the 2 primary ones are the top 2, and those are the ones we typically focus on each month when we present to the board. And so that, if you have any questions?
I just have a few. First of all, I'm looking forward to maybe setting a final review to kind of go over finances and get a better understanding as a newbie. But the transfers that were listed in our board book, and I chatted briefly today with Dr. River about this, I was just a little bit, thinking about the broad strokes that you just shared with us with the larger numbers, that's as a board member what I would have anticipated. And then to see such a string of relatively minor transfers was a bit unexpected.
Some governments, so maybe the government that you work for might not require us to bring a transfer to the board unless it was over a $5,000 some sort of, but here we're required to bring everything to the board. So it's just our current board policy, and it's not a bad practice. So we like to kind of keep our eye on the detail. It's
Got it. So that's a monthly practice, not
Right.
a transfer. But these were still budgeted already and are reflected in this
Correct.
year's budget, correct? So it's not additional dollars.
correct, and it's
Okay.
part of the Higher Learning Commission process. So we have an AQUIP project that's looking at how we improve our budgeting and budgeting transparency. And this year's project selected one of our targets as we monitoring those transfers to see if we can do a better job budgeting up front, so that we're not doing transfers during the course of the year. So we've kind of set that as a goal for subsequent year budgets, to try to budget more precisely so that we're not transferring as often during the course of the year.
Great. Thank you.
The other report I had in your packet, and I unfortunately forgot to bring the PowerPoint. Obviously, we count on Derek for everything here, but the handout is in your hands. It's just the quarterly investment report by our financial advisor, PMA. Prior board meetings, we noted too that we have taken this out for bid, so the firm that does this work for us every quarter will be coming back to the board at the day of the June meeting with the decision from that bid process. But this is our current advisor, and this one's report covers our yields for the college. If you notice on page 2, there's a yellow curve that shows the current rates that we're returning, and you can see it's well above what it was a prior year ago. So obviously, it's improving our investment returnings. They've also included a brief economic highlight or outlook in their report, which is on the following page. There's a nice summary of all of our portfolios that are in our investments, and it's providing a 3-quarter comparison. And then finally, you can see like the composition of portfolio. Basically, we have a very safely invested portfolio, but it's almost like overly safe. So the board was encouraging us to go out and maybe look at other advisors, both for the foundation and for the college, so that way we're investing a little bit more in a more mature fashion for our organization.
That's what I was just going to ask you.
Yeah.
Are we still continuing to look at potentially maximizing more with our?
We will be with our new provider that we bring to the board in May or June, and the kinds of things that you might see towards the end under our allowable investments. We could be investing in things like commercial paper, or purchase agreements, or even federal agency instruments that yield much better than what we're currently earning today. And so we know when we get our new advisor in place, the process gets complete, we'll be able to be a little more proficient in this area.
Do we know how many are bidding?
How many do you know, the number of firms that are responding to the bid?
I think so far we have acknowledgement maybe around 10, but I think we sent out maybe 30.
So 30 firms that have got
We have
proposals.
firms that have a lot larger pool and.
Right, a little more experience. And also help the foundation too. We're hoping it's going to be a win-win. The foundation's assets are relatively small relative to ours, so the firms that would bid on the foundation's work might not because it's such a small amount, but we kind of come in together. There's enough size that would warrant decent investments for both of us.